So I had debated on making this video. Ultimately, I wanted to reveal the identity of the killer in terms of ideological position. Obviously, that is now there. We already knew who it was, let's be real. But I wanted to get evidence. Then, before I actually had put my evidence to work, people had already achieved that goal. And I was basically going to just set this video aside and move on. Focus on positive things. But I decided that at least until this individual and the other individuals implicated are put to death, executed by the state under lawful grounds, YouTube. Until that happens, I might make this video and upload it as a deep dive into how radicalization happens and the interesting facts about this case. So to jump right into it, it starts exactly as you would expect. 2013, 2014, he joins Reddit and he starts using Reddit as a typical, normal user. Unfortunately, he continues to use Reddit and does not immediately realize that it's a cesspool and leave, like a typical, normal user. A fully functional human. First failure. Used Reddit. Now, during this time, he was actually fairly religious. Like, he had faith. Now, the reason I say this is because one of the things that was the first step towards his radicalization was that he joined an atheist Reddit and began trying to debate them, I guess. It's not really debate, more just convince them that, to see the light and understand that God was the way and he was going to save them. And this was what would he even be at that point? Early high schooler, trying to convince many adults who, a lot of them are retarded, let's be real, but some of them actually do have a decent amount of persuasion to them. I have nothing against atheists. I have a lot of things against atheists, actually, but I have nothing against the concept of not having a religion. I have my own religion that is different, but so I'm not technically an atheist, but at one point I was, and I understand the kind of rationality you go through in that phase. And they use the same type of arguments that I used at that time. He would say that, God is good, and they would point to less good points in the Bible, and they pretty much converted him. He went to go and convert them, and they converted him. And this is one of the things I would say that I do have an issue with atheism, is they don't use any type of metric to whether or not that's a good idea. It's just, you're on the other side, come to my side. We can be good people without religion, so you can be good people without religion. We see now, this is an instance where his religion was a crutch he desperately needed. Because as soon as he's separated from his faith, as soon as that's broken, he immediately becomes much, much more malleable. He starts just agreeing with things that other people tell him. Not outright, but he's just... they can tell him something that is patently unethical and immoral, and he'll kind of just go with it. And he also starts, exploring sexuality. He's a teenager, this a teenage boy, it's what happens. He expresses that, not a lot of luck in that department. No bitches, as it were. No bitches as it would be sustained, it appears, based on current information. No bitches. Finds online relief. Starts to build a interest in the furry community. Not as a furry specifically, more so interest in consuming of the media than being part of it. At least from what we can see him commenting on and what we can see him saying. The next step is someone kind of playing a prank on him, and it's a pretty big shift. So, you may know this prank. He has a affinity for cat girls. So, someone who thought they were very funny, I'm sure, sent this fairly young high schooler a link to a subreddit that I don't want to specifically repeat the meme here, nor do I want YouTube to see fit to suppress this video any more than it already will. So, to put it in a way that is understandable but also not for AI, he was linked to a subreddit that has a emphasis on biodegradable human waste recycling and recyclers. I hope that's clear enough. And because the name of this subreddit, he thought he was going to click on something very different. He was led to believe he was clicking on something very different, and he found himself in a very different environment. And he went to that subreddit. He did not join that subreddit or anything like that. We can't see that, but he did comment on some things. And I think he misclicked. He misclicked on the upvote on some things, we'll say. Not alleging anything, but he was there for a while. Made a comment, a single comment, and misclicked a couple upvotes. And the reason I actually kind of do believe he misclicked them, he was scrolling, is because he distanced himself from this subreddit by creating a separate email. He created an email in incognito mode because, it's incognito mode. You're going to be incognito. Unfortunately, or fortunately in our instance, for us it's fortunate, unfortunately for him, Google directly connects any account created through your browser to you, even if you're in incognito mode. It also still harvests all your data, so literally incognito mode does nothing. It automatically deletes your browsing history for you. Not for Google or anyone watching you, just for you. So, created a separate account, and then created a new Reddit account where he deep dived into adult material. Again, it's a teenager. He did go back to that subreddit on the other account, and he was more interactive on that subreddit on that other account, so like he separated himself on his main account, and he basically scrubbed a lot of his interactions with that subreddit, but we can see that he had a deleted comment there, and we can see that he upvoted some posts there that I actually didn't see that he had those in his history. Whatever the case, it gave us a clue. Gave us a trail to follow. And he went back to the subreddit on this other account, which I guess technically we didn't need that trail since we had the email, but we at least know how we got to this point. He mostly normal stuff, apparently, apparently he was into biodegradable human waste recycling. It's kind of one of the first. I guess it's a red flag. I would call it a red flag. I mean, I would definitely call it a red flag for a teenager, and for most people, I'd call it a red flag. But you know, to each their own, I guess. But this is where we go from guessing to definite red flags. He gets into like some BDSM stuff. Then he goes from the BDSM communities to communities that the BDSM communities consider abusive. So, people that most people consider abusive are saying that these other communities are abusive. It's a pretty clear indication of radical content. Now, from here, he then creates several actual adult platform accounts, as well as finally acting on a clear interest that he's expressed and creating a Fur Affinity account. I think it's Fur Affinity. That's the first one he created. I'm pretty sure that's the one that they leaked publicly. No, it was the other thing that was still a thing back then. The original furry haven, until they banned all the furries and then they went bankrupt and disappeared. That was the first account he created, but Fur Affinity was one of the ones that branched into that one. I don't know when he created that account. I was thinking of the news on that one. Like I said, I only perused this data. I did not keep any of it because it's questionably obtained, and I can't say for sure that it's legal. Illegally obtained information is illegal to own. So, yeah. I only perused, so I'm not exactly 100% on the timeline. I know the order of events. I don't know the full order of account creations, and there is a lot of other reporting that is currently on my mind. But I'm pretty sure for if anything is just from the new stuff. I don't think I saw it in this one. If I did, it wasn't important, because if we go straight to some much, much less regulated furry platforms. So he goes to, all of the typical adult platforms, the platforms that everyone memes about, every teenager knowing the themes for and being fully aware of and probably using, because again, they're teenagers. We were all there at one point in our life, probably. Most of us were. We know what's going on. However, with him, a touch of a taste for the extreme. He's not looking at normal stuff for a teenager. He's on the far end of, like, his general interactions are on what would be considered pretty extreme content. And then he still is dipping further into more extreme content. Once he gets to the furry boards, we get a very clear picture of just how extreme we're talking. So, once he's on the furry boards, he has a very short period of mostly interacting with the really tame furry stuff. The entry level, like, okay, you're gonna draw your Sonic erotica. That kind of stuff. It's weird, but it's not that harmful. It's a little bit of psychological damage, maybe some emotional damage, but it's not spiritually destructive thermonuclear disintegration. From there, he gets into a lot of, basically, it's rape. He's watching a lot of rape content. It's just not watching, he's looking at, and he's commenting on it, and he's interacting. This is how we can see generally what he's interacting with, because he did make comments. He did upvote. He did things that are trackable on an account. Just so you know. If you do these things, like, if someone ever gets access to your account name, they can find out what you're up to. Have fun with that. And it goes from there to more aggressive, torture, full, like, it's already torture, I guess, but, like, full gore, torture, like, mutilation, dismemberment, always with the sexual element to it, which makes it worse. I mean, it's kind of bad already for, you know, usually it's not a good sign for mental health, put it that way. And then when you attach it to sexual attraction, like, this is the guy who gets no bitches. He's dreaming of mutilating potential partners to get a thrill out of it. That's his fantasy. And then interacting with stuff that he's presenting himself as the person being mutilated by a would-be partner. It's a progression. Like, he's playing both sides of that, and both sides are crazy, I'm just gonna be honest. Goes further from that to full-on snuff, necrophilia, and midway into this, he starts incorporating cub content into all of the other stuff. It's still the other stuff, it's just now got the addition of the cub tag. So, yeah. We've reached peak radicalization at this point. Like, he is... And he starts commenting on some of these things, some of the most extreme stuff, and saying, you know, I shouldn't like this kind of stuff. How, like, I don't know why I like this. I don't know why I'm looking at this. You know, he has that moment, the moments of clarity in all of this, where whatever's left of his sanity, his soul, is desperately trying to cry out. Trying to warn him that, you know, you done fucked up. And enter Fedboy Glowy. This... I'm going to give you a little quick detour here. This guy... Technically we did meet the other person in this picture, probably, Abley, most likely. But we'll get back to that person. Fedboy Glowy is a different person who more directly connected these two. But he has a presence both on the clear web and on the dark web. And the people in the dark web are the ones who have anointed him Fedboy Glowy. He produces and releases, allegedly, illegal content on the dark web. Like, very, very illegal. Like, you go to an island and you're there with all of the presidential figures and elite of the country. That type of content. And he uploads that content and downloads that content from the dark web. So, while he's there, the reason he is anointed such is because he's very inefficient at what he does. He does not tunnel his IP. He does not do anything to protect his identity. And, strangely enough, like, he has a limited amount of protection when he uploads content, where it looks like he actually might have the slightest bit of tech savviness, but he has absolutely no understanding of psychological profiling. He talks the same way no matter what he's doing. So he's trying to be anonymous, but then he's using very specific typing patterns that show who he is to anyone that's paying attention when you also correlate other information. It's something that people who are very interested in maintaining full anonymity speak in very mechanical tones so that they are all indistinguishable from everyone else, and he's the guy sitting there saying, we're all anonymous, guys, no one knows who we are, we're so cool, and speaking in statements that make him revealed. So, Fed Boy Glowy. But they really got him when they got his DC IP from his home, where he uploads content, like it looks like running a honeypot, uploads and downloads, and during this process, he has multiple points where he's leaking information that could be used to track him, or could be used to track the people that are buying and selling from him. He has just poor delivery methods, poor sustained security. So they already are suspicious of him. And then Hello Fellow Hacker shows up from his home computer, speaks the same way, and downloads a lot of the content that he uploaded while at work. And they're 99% sure this is the same guy. They don't have an absolute certainty that he's the guy that they already suspect the other guy of being a Fed. And then this guy they think is the same person based on the way he speaks and the fact that he interacts with a lot of the same locations. But he goes and downloads for a private collection at home. So, just have fun with that. The Fed is employing people to run honeypots that are then being the thing that they're trying to stop while at home. Live long enough as the villain, you become an even bigger villain. So anyway, he also has a free web identity, and the reason we know it's the same person is IP. We know that it's the same home address from the other guy. And he's interacting on this furry board. Now, he starts interacting with the would-be shooter pretty early on, and his role is anytime he expresses any type of clarity, moral spark of life, having a soul, this guy quashes it immediately. And he turns it all, he inverts it every time. It's, this is, I need to stop this. No, that's just the Christians. They're the ones telling you that you need to stop this because they're actually worse, and you're normal, you're actually just, being a real person, and they're hiding it. And they're hiding it because they're just so much worse than you are. That's the kind of shit that's going on between Fed Boy Glowy and the killer. Now, he does meet this other person, who is we go from Fed Boy Glowy to Fed Boy, or not Fed Boy, to Femboy Furry. And this is possibly his not bitch. This is someone who is incredibly violent like him. They most likely were interacting with the same Fed. We don't know for certain that that's the case, but they were behaving very similarly, so it's very likely they got radicalized, and there just happened to be someone there that was intent on radicalizing people and then disappearing. He leaves after this. He provides a link to a furry roleplay server where, they can talk and get to know each other better because he's somewhat bonded with the future killer, what is very likely to be the future killer's account. And then he pieces off. He's no longer interacting with the guy. He's probably still active on those things. He's just not interacting with him on this platform. Maybe he's in the Discord, maybe he's not, we don't know. But this guy takes the link, and then a little while later he gives the link to his femboy crush, who is equally radicalized as him. And they both are now off in this Discord, and we can't really see what's going on in this Discord because Discord actually does have a degree of security. Without someone inside the Discord at the time to capture logs, the only way you're getting Discord's logs is if you're Discord, or you're a friend of Discord, or you are a government. So, not a lot we can get from that. Or at least, that's what I'm told. I don't know how secure Discord really is. I would always assume that there are breaches. Maybe it's just that in order to get that, you would have to reveal enough of your own information that they would not risk doing. But we know something's going on in that server. It's furry roleplay from people that are very, very deranged. And later on, we get one more update on what's going on with him. He goes to a Reddit that is frequented by Antifa, and he posts an image, and he asks a question. He asks about, how to find out more about Antifa or something simple, dumb like that. It's literally a password. It is the cringest attempt at being super spy rebels ever. So, the picture is a picture that is given that has embedded data in it. You post it to the Reddit, and then other people receive it, and they say, okay, this person is someone that we're recruiting, and they interact with you. And this happens after, and what we know about how this happens is you go to this furry roleplay server, right? So you're just there to do furry roleplay. It's nothing nefarious. Now, while you're there, people are either conditioning or measuring your condition and deciding whether or not you'll be a good fit for Antifa, which is a totally leaderless organization, by the way. If they think you're a good fit, then they give you an image to share to Reddit. You share this image to Reddit. And then when you go there, you interact with them, and they have like a whole little secret handshake of you shitpost each other, and then they post a meme at you. And the meme is going to just be something to insult, or otherwise, like, you're not getting along. You're enemies now. You hate each other. You don't respect each other. You don't want to talk ever again. And that meme that they post you with is going to be another image with an embedded key that you've already been told by your other handlers, the other people that have been talking to you, how to extract these. You extract the key, and the key in this case is, it can be anything, but in this case it is a link to a Discord, a invite. Single-use invite created by the admin of a Discord that just happens to house a lot of Antifa that you can only get into from a key from the admin, who is definitely not the leader of any organization, because Antifa isn't an organization because it has no leader or structure. So there you go. That's the final step of the radicalization. It's how it works. Everyone knows this, and for some reason we still don't acknowledge that they are an organization that is intent on radicalizing people. The more you know. And that's the end of the data that I had. Because at this point, he's in that Discord. There's nothing that really stood out. I mean, one of the problems with the way that these guys do their data sweeping is they use AI, and AI has a big problem with newer information. Like, it's really good about indexing old information, but it takes a while until it properly indexes new information, so there could be information that is not included in my set. There most likely is. That's the end of the information I have. There has been some information that's been released since this collection process. I assume this is the individual that is the boyfriend, because that's what everyone's saying, which means, based on my information, I would assume this is the same person he met on the furry boards, that was deranged. Their family has come out and said that, like, they literally distance themselves from them because they are deranged. They're deranged to the point that their own family is worried that they will cause harm to them, is the current statement. And as of yesterday, some point, haven't slept all that much for some reason. I don't know why I would have trouble sleeping. They confirmed that very likely the femboy boyfriend is complicit in the crime, and that there are more people beyond that are complicit in the crime. It's sounding like he handled the rifle, so he got the rifle there. He jumped off the roof, and as he was going to jump off the roof, he threw the rifle off somewhere where it could be collected and disposed of. Again, people LARPing as super spies when they're following the procedure of just any TV show. And yeah, it seems like that's what happened. Threw the gun off the roof, the other person picked it up and moved it. He went off a different direction, so then they end up finding the gun, and then they're looking all over where the gun was, and they can't find anything on cameras, and he's off back at home because he's a retard, and he doesn't understand that even if he gets away with the initial crime, they are going to find out who he is, and, you know, get on a plane and go to another country, get in a car and go to another, like, do anything you can to not be where you were. It's not advice, but I'm just saying, like, everyone with a brain understands this. So, no, it was not a professional hit. No, it was not a Mossad operation. It was a whacked out dude that very likely was radicalized by the FBI and or a informant of the FBI, and with 100% accuracy, with a margin of error of another 100% in the positive, for 200% potential accuracy. He is an Antifa member. We already know he's got no bitches, so he got himself a femboy instead. You know, whatever floats your boat. You're gonna get a lot of that experience in prison. So, you know, good news for him, I guess. I mean, he might become the femboy in prison. One can hope. Other than that, we know that there's a collection of people who are in the know. Again, I'm willing to bet that this RP server is not as much of an RP server as a bunch of radicals that are literally screaming for membership for Antifa as a totally separate entity that is definitely not organized, but can be somewhat organized because it's not there for nefarious way. I think it's all just... I think the FBI is basically operating Antifa without directly operating it. They're handling their recruitments, they're handling the conditioning of new recruits, and they are directing the process. I think that the actual person in charge is probably, I mean, if they are smart, which the FBI is not, it would be someone that is trusted but not affiliated. Someone that they know will do what they want to be done, but also separate themselves from that person. But it very likely could just be, for all we know, our hero slash villain, Fedboy Glowy, could be the leader of Antifa in that server. We do know there is a leader, by the way. Like, we know that server shows that there is an organization with a leadership structure and one person handing out keys for invitation. And again, this isn't secret. Everyone knows this Discord server exists. For whatever reason, the State Department does not care to look into it because, again, they're probably operating it. Just, I'm being painfully blunt about that. But that is where we are at the end of the story. Until more information comes out, and I most likely will not do an update, I will eventually delete this video. Like I said, this person, whenever they are dealt with, whenever justice has been served and they are no longer among humanity, then I would rather everyone forget who they were. Like, leave no legacy, leave no memory. They are not even worth hating once they are gone. They are definitely worth hating while they are alive. Let's be real. I personally hope that all of the people that are in this outer organization also face the same penalty that he faces, and I hope he faces firing squad. I'm just going to say it outright. But once he's no longer relevant, then I think everyone should erase him from the pages of history. Remember the loss, do not remember the killer. It's one of the key points of maintaining your sanity in this era. With that, we are at the end. I'm sure there will be more information. The FBI will release bits and pieces. I also feel like, again, I don't trust the FBI. They will most likely scrub any interaction with this Antifa server. Like, he's gonna only have interacted with people that are already named by third parties. One thing I will say here, just to be clear, the FBI acts like they're giving you information. They showed his picture after 4chan had already shown clearer pictures of him. The FBI released his picture to the public. They released the link to this other person that is, again, allegedly his femboy boyfriend living with him in UT. After 4chan had already made the connections. They announced the investigation into other people believed to have helped with the act after 4chan had made the connections. Like, they only come out and release information after it's been released by a third party. After the internet sleuths have already found it, and then they, try to get out ahead of it. So I don't know how much information they will release from this point, but at least, for the sake of this video, we have a clear picture of the radicalization. As far as how much value there is in this video in terms of understanding the radicalization, sadly, it's just intellectual value. To understand who you hate and why you hate them, almost. That's kind of the only thing it really offers. To understand the monster. Because one of the things that you see in this, aside from Femboy Glowy, who, should be in prison by any standard, if they were in prison for the crimes that everyone around them knows they are committing, then they would not have radicalized him, because they were already committing these dark web stuff, the honeypot scam and or just being a fed-ped. They were already doing that long before the radicalization of this guy. Like, they did that after that. So if they were arrested and in prison, that wouldn't have happened. We don't know that this would be averted, but it's a lot less likely to have happened. The timing wouldn't line up. But, again, the FBI should, according to their own claims of their proficiency, or the NSA, or, there's many intelligence organizations, they should have been able to find that guy, but they probably did find him, but they didn't want to find him, so they never found him. If that makes any sense, because it doesn't. They should have been able to get him and remove him. They willfully choose not to, which means he's probably working with them, and you can't stop the radicalization there, which is one of the places that you're not stopping the radicalization, you're stopping the weaponization of the radical at that stage. Like, he's already radicalized himself. The first step of radicalization is just, again, it's himself. Every time in these cases, not every time, but almost every time, they've already radicalized themselves to a very high degree before any other entity may be directing them. He radicalized himself as soon as he lost his faith. That was the start of the process. It was an essential step. As long as he had that moral compass, he was somewhat stable. I don't know how stable. I just know that he seemed normal. As soon as that moral compass was taken, as soon as his faith was destroyed, again, by in part his own attempt to act on it and failure to do so, against people who had no malicious intention from what I was looking at. They weren't sitting there saying, we can turn this person into a monster. It was just, we believe we have, some of them. There were some that are just kind of terrible people. It's going to be all types in every group. That's why I don't directly condemn an entire group. I just am acknowledging that each group has major flaws. But from what we can tell, they weren't acting maliciously, they were just disagreeing with his position and using effective tactics to disprove it that just so happened to be effective and break his faith. The person who sent the meme that sent him into the adult media content and did probably the most damage, again, they weren't being malicious. You're never gonna stop people that do those kind of memes. If you did stop it, you'd be changing society in a way I don't think anyone wants to live in. And, I mean, that's the one point that you could try to stop. You could stop the culture that thinks that that's fine. I don't think you're gonna succeed there. Once he got into the adult media, again, that was the point where he went off the grid. He went secret. His parents didn't know what was going on. I mean, they probably knew. Again, it's a teenager. We were all teenagers. They knew that he was a teenager doing teenage things. They just did not understand the level. And they would have no reason to understand the level because it's a teenager. You're not going around saying, oh, hey, you know what I watched today? You know what I did? Like, it's not the type of thing teenagers do with anyone that would be able to de-radicalize them. Because he did not have any success in relationships or anything, he had no one close to him to talk to him, to like, bring him down. From what people were talking about, his peers were talking about his high school experience, and he was generally just seen as a weird Reddit dude. And in my experience, weird Reddit dudes don't have all that many friends either. They tend to have friends on Reddit. Their internet life is their life. Both because they adopt positions based on what the people online tell them, and when you say those positions out loud in public, especially if you got them from Reddit, they tend to isolate you. So again, he brought it on himself. No one really was trying to get that outcome up to this point. It was just everyone collectively being kind of shit. The adult media wasn't trying to corrupt him. It was selling a service that people want to buy. Advertising a product, I guess, that people want to buy. Because I doubt he was buying anything because, again, teenager. There's no point where you can derail this train. It is a very efficient radicalization cycle. The only point that can be changed is Fedboy Glowy, that this person is a criminal otherwise, outside of this event, and should be removed. That's the only point where you can kind of break the chain. And again, even then, you're just leaving someone that's already been... They're just barely questioning any sense of morality they have left, and it doesn't mean they're gonna... He's not gonna suddenly be like, I shouldn't like this. I'm gonna just go back to church and be good now. Like, you're in too deep at that point. It's sunken cost fallacy. He's regretting what he's done for that moment, but ultimately you're most likely going to just go further, especially when, again, the major radicalization force, like the Fed did his role. But if this is the same person that he was talking to on those boards, this other radical, and where they got radicalized with, we don't know. I don't care to look into their history. I had enough of disgust looking into this guy's. But they were the most radical element he encountered. The other guy gave him a target and kind of destroyed what little decency he had left by inverting it. This person was already twisted. The furry femboy boyfriend was already twisted. Like, as much as you can be twisted. And, I mean, I'm just going to speculate here. probably being transitioned at a relatively young age doesn't really help you much with your avoiding radicalization. Let's go with the Occam's razor on that one. Most likely school and culture. Culture's the only thing that's just the constant across all of it, and you got an uphill battle to change culture. Understanding how it happens, I guess maybe you can, but realistically, it's a losing battle. And with that, I think I'm just going to call it, leave it there. Everything I can share has been said. The information is there. If you want to understand how we got from point A to point Z, there's missing pieces. You can wait for the news. There'll be bits and pieces of that shared. We have a clear enough picture that we know all the important bits. The only thing left to do is find out how to stop it.